Alpena County Board of Finance and Ways Means Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Here.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Here.
Commissioner Bray. Here. Commissioner Fournier. Here. Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Commissioner Konashevsky.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, you have the agenda in front of you. Any additions to the agenda?
I'm just going to add one thing,
Okay.
introduction to right after public comment.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, I'd entertain a motion. I'll make the motion. Motion by Commissioner LaHaye, support. Support. By Commissioner Britton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Carried. Okay, John,
Oh, public comment.
public comment, yeah. Keep on, anybody out there from the public? State your name and your address, please.
My name is Julie Burns. I live on Sunset Street here in Alpena. And you would ask the library kind of sometimes to give a report, so my other colleagues are working, so I sort of drew the short straw, get you up here. I want to let you know that we voted yes on the garden project. And we voted yes to get start the director search. And there's 2 dates now we have for that. The first one is Tuesday, April 29th from 4 to 7 PM. We're going to do the initial interviews. And I'm assuming these are at the library. She didn't say, but. And then the final one is going to be Wednesday, May 28th, 9 AM until whenever. We elected new officers. The president is Dustin Budd. He is Joe Garber. The secretary is Tracy Collins. And the fourth one with only 4 of us. Again, I drew the short straw. I'm the treasurer. We had a elevator contract and we voted to go with Otis because they responded immediately when there was a problem with the elevator. The Great Lakes Company, they didn't do anything until Tina actually called them. And you know, it's a safety issue. If someone's stuck in the elevator, we want to have somebody there immediately. But when she contacted Great Lakes, apparently the contract goes through September. And so we will keep Great Lakes through September, and after that, we'll go with Otis, even though they're more money, but the safety thing was more important. And Dustin's gonna be gone this month, so we're gonna be short kind of on board again, but he'll be back apparently in April. That's the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, public comment? Anybody online? Okay, close public comment. Bills to pay.
So,
Okay, yeah, Cindy Nelson.
so I just wanted to take the time to introduce our newest employee, Ricky, works in the treasurer's office. I don't know if the other commissioners have had a chance to meet her, but she's working in the treasurer's office, and every time I go in there, she's got a smile on her face. So, you know, as long as we can keep a smile on her face, I think we're doing the right thing. And I just want to thank her for coming. I asked Cindy if she would come so that way the whole board could meet her today. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Cindy. So
Welcome. Okay, bills to pay. You have the bills in front of you. Any questions? The bills.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
Motion by Commissioner LaHaye, support.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Ludlow. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Yes.
Commissioner Bray. Yes. Commissioner Fournier. Yes. Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
yes,
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Hey, Rachel.
Mind if I set this right here? And I apologize in advance. I was sick last week, so my voice may be a little rough sometimes. Okay, good morning, and thank you for getting us on the agenda. I do have a brief or a presentation. I will do my best to keep it brief. Please feel free to ask questions. We do have our bond counsel online. I can't see who's online, but he's supposed to be online. Ron from Miller Canfield. And then we also have our consultant, RRS, who you're working with on the MMP, Annie White, who helped us put together our pro forma, if you have any questions on that. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Do I just tell you, Kim, when to advance? Go ahead and advance. So perhaps you've heard of this term circular economy. Over the past few years, Michigan and other parts of the United States, they have transitioned over to what we call a circular economy. So this is where instead of things, being processed and then go directly into the landfill, you capture those resources, recycle them, make them into new products, and use them in new raw materials for manufacturing new products. So basically, the point is to keep those materials and products in circulation as long as possible rather than putting them in a landfill. Next slide, please. So this one, recycling saves. I just wanted to make the point that, there are other things besides the environment, which is very important. Recycling is good for the environment, but it also reduces costs for waste disposal for residents and businesses. And the costs of disposing of garbage, municipal waste, there's a pretty broad range for businesses and households. I tried to find some statistics on this, and the average household, maybe a family of four, it costs from $20 to $80 a week, or $240 to $960 annually to dispose of garbage. However, again, it's such a broad range that it really depends on, how you use these things, how much you recycle. Over to the right is a graph that I found from the Recycling Partnership. And just to point out on that, there's a lot of potential for capturing recyclable materials. 76%, according to the Recycling Partnership in 2024, 76% of those materials are lost to trash and homes. So there is still a lot of potential to capture recycled materials and put those back into that circular economy. So again, this increases the availability of raw materials for production and manufacturing. We have a really great example of that here in Alpena with Wholesome Alpena. We are getting ready to kick off glass recycling with Bailey here, our new executive director. He has been able to, really move that forward. So basically, any glass that we would collect, and again, we're not there yet, but I would say in the next month or two, we will see that take place. So that glass, crushed glass, will go to Wholesome to be used to make their product, rather than the silica that they have to use for as a raw material. So again, that is a great local example of a circular economy. Also, diversion of materials to recycling increases the lifespan of our landfills. So I know a lot of you are familiar with the MOA landfill. I think they've had to put a new cell out there recently, and it costs a lot of money. And we want to make sure that those landfills are around for a long time, because we still do have to, get rid of some of that as garbage. Next slide, please. So there have been some recent changes with the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act in Michigan. You may have heard of Part 115 requirements, and I know you are all very familiar with the materials management plan that is now required for counties. Alpena County is taking a leadership role in this process, and Alpena is the designated planning agency for 5 counties. So that's Alpena, Alcona, Montmorency, Oscoda, and Iosco. And the focus with these MMP plans are managing materials at collection sites and curbside. So you get to determine locally how you want to do that and how you want to plan. It does provide funding. I know there have been some snags with that, that hopefully the state legislature will work through, but there is funding available for planning now, and we're hopeful for implementation down the road. These MMP plans align with the state of Michigan goal of 45% recycling rate by 2030. It also considers economic development, and these plans preserve your ability to flow control those materials into a publicly owned facility, which in this case would be the NEMA MRF. And we'll talk a little bit about the new MRF that we're proposing, which I believe you are all familiar with here in a minute. And also, as I mentioned, you know, we've had a lot of interest, at least at the city. And I'm sorry, I wanted to back up again. I am the city representative for NEMA. I'm also the treasurer. So I know someone said they drew the short straw. I mean, it's a tough role. Cindy and the staff know very well. So I did get the short straw on that, but I've been enjoying that work moving forward. So that's my role in all of this. So there has been a lot of interest, at least on the city's behalf, and I know it may be out in the township and other areas with getting to curbside. So again, these MMP plans do take that into consideration. So next slide, please. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of history on NEMA and how we were formed and kind of how long recycling has been in Alpena County. So the recycling program in one form or another has existed since 2006. And most of those activities have been out at the old transfer station at M32. I think maybe there was a gap year where there wasn't any funding and there wasn't recycling. But since then, there have also been numerous countywide collection events or cleanup days, as well as electronics recycling. So there's a long history of recycling in Alpena County, which is wonderful. Now, in 2022, we were approached by NIMCOG, Northeast Michigan Council of Governments, and they wanted to have the recycling program essentially go off on their own because NIMCOG had been housing the recycling program within, and they were the fiduciary for the recycling program for many years. And so we got to work, and these efforts were in large part due to help from the Intergovernmental Council that brought all of these different entities that needed to be part of NEMA together. And so we had a lot of conversations early on at the IGC. And in January of 2023, we officially formed, we adopted our articles and our bylaws, and NEMA took on the recycling program on behalf of the county. So it's a really unique authority because it's comprised of entities, all the local governments within Alpena County, which is really cool to get everyone to come together for recycling. So that's the County of Alpena, City of Alpena, Charter Township of Alpena, and the townships of Greene, Long Rapids, Maple Ridge, Ossining, Sanborn, Wellington, and Wilson. So a great collaboration. Now, early on in the recycling program, the way that it was partially funded was through this household. So PA 138 allows a household surcharge to be established. And so the first agreement that I found was in 2017. Now, recently, that was amended in 2023, and I think maybe there was another amendment in 2018, but that is now at $25 per household, which helps support the recycling program. And then very recently, the MOA Landfill Board made the commitment to the recycling program to approve a quarterly allocation of 50 cents per delivered cubic yard for up to 75,000 for the regional MRF development and also operations. So that began in July 1 of 2024. And next slide, please. And so that really allowed us to move forward. We hired Bailey Barr as our first executive director. And he was only hired in November 2024, but we have seen a lot of progress in, implementing improvements out of the facility, in our collections, as well as operations. So everything that we've done has been to improve efficiency, just to make sure that we're keeping up on the collection sites and providing the best user experience that we can within our current operations. Also, NEMA has been busy working on the development of the new MRF, which I'll get into the design here in a little bit. We have the preliminary design and engineering. We have the survey and site plan completed. We also have our FAA clearance, which is required once we secure the land lease with the county. We needed to make sure, so it's out adjacent to the airport. So we were required to get that clearance. We also have our tall structure permit, zoning permit through Wilson Township, and our phase 1 environmental assessment is completed. So we've done a lot of work pre-development to move forward with this. The other thing is that we have 75% of our capital costs for this new material recovery facility covered, which is pretty unique to have that large of a percentage of those capital costs. And again, we'll talk a little bit about the capital funding coming up. And so our feedstock is from all of those members of the MMP, which is Alpena, Montmorency, Ascota, Alcona, and Iosco counties, to send their recyclables to our facility. Iosco County is actually pretty far along. We've started working with them on, a plan for their recycling. They approved some funding through Public Act 138. And then we also have done some preliminary planning for down the road in, perhaps year 5 and 6 for curbside recycling, not only at the city, but in those more populated areas in the township that want it, and potentially even in the townships. So that all comes with the new facility. And then we have had some discussions with Presqu'île about, possibly joining in and, bringing their materials. But again, those are conversations that continue to happen. Next slide, please. Okay. Skipped ahead, just too fast. Okay, so MRF design. So this is just an overview of what the site is going to look like. Again, this is on parcel 20 out off the airport road. And so what we are planning on is a circular sorting line. And that's actually called the Revolution System. And so this is what our Eagle Infrastructure Grant was for when we received that back in 2021 and began planning this. And so that minimizes the space needed, the square footage compared to a conventional design. And it also helps us keep our capital costs down. The rectangular building shape helps us with any, future expansion. It makes it easier to, pop out a wall. I know it's not that easy, but, maybe in the future down the road when we need to expand. So we'll provide dual stream recycling with a bunker that's source separated glass. And so that's collected separately. The cardboard goes directly to the baler. On this sort line, you have the ability to also do multiple passes to make sure that you're getting as much material into the recycling stream as possible. Again, area for future expansion. Next slide, please. Okay. And so this slide demonstrates kind of where we are in Alpena County. Typically over the years, we've been able to process about 1,000 tons per year. The future in year 6, with all of that feedstock that you see on the left there. So Alpena existing, that will increase. And then we'll also have new material, as I said, and then other counties make that up. So in year 6, we anticipate about 4,300 tons coming through our facility. However, that's really conservative. We think actually there will be more once those recycling programs in other counties get up and running. So again, we wanted to stick with a conservative estimate for our pro forma and, hope that we get more material in. And on the right there, you just see all of the sources of funding that we are anticipating. We did leave a lot of leeway in our pro forma, which you all have, in case we need to switch up, if MMP funding isn't available or the MOA funding isn't available, or if anything changes, there's a little bit of room to play with in those pro forma numbers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the MRF capital budget, and I do want to point out that we recently made some changes to this capital budget because we're doing everything that we can to conserve funding on this. And so we did cut recently about 500,000 out of the budget. And I apologize, Kim, can you go back to the MRF design slide? And so what we've done to help save is we've moved the office space out into a trailer. So we'll still have 1,500 square feet, but it costs us less than including it as part of the building. And if we ever decide to go back, then we can, add that office space on. But, at a lot of facilities, it's done with an office trailer. We also moved the glass bunker out. It was part of the building before, and so that'll be separate. And then the tipping area and the bunker area are now covered with a fabric cover that is pretty durable, and they've seen these used at other facilities. So those are just a couple of things that we've done for cost savings to keep the budget down on the design. Okay, can you go back? Thank you. So that puts us at our projected cost for the facility at 5.165. Next slide, please. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about our capital funding sources. Again, I noted earlier that we have about 75% of those capital costs secured. And we've used some of the funding already for a new truck. We used our Eagle grant to purchase a new truck, which will go to the new facility and use part of the Alpena County stimulus funds that were given for this project for a match to that truck and for pre-construction costs. So just going through these, we have our Eagle infrastructure grant. We still have corporate grants secured from the Carton Council and Food Service Packaging Institute. The stimulus funds. The big one is our congressionally directed spending in the amount of 2.7 million. That will come down through the USDA. We have to have all of our funding sources in place and secured before they release those funds. And so we have to go back once we have that all done or have those funds secured and actually continue through with their application process and request a release of the funds. And there are several steps with that and working with USDA. We also recently secured a Besser Foundation grant in the amount of $50,000. You probably saw there is also a letter of support from Besser in your materials. And then the rest of that would be in bonds. Now, the 1.6 million ceiling is what we're setting. We do have to account for whether or not we're going to get increased manufacturing costs because of what's going on with materials costs right now. But that would be the absolute ceiling. And I want to stress that we are continuing every day to fundraise, and we will do that throughout the construction process. So we want to borrow as little as possible to keep our debt service numbers down. So again, we also have requests into Eagle for additional funding. So we will keep working at that and make this as low as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a snapshot of our timeline. We've revised this just to indicate kind of where we are. And so we're going through the bonding process right now. This request is part of that. We hope for building, construction, and procurement that RFP can go out here in the next couple months, as well as site construction. Those will go out together. Continue through with our bond process. Also USDA funds, get those released, and start on our equipment procurement. So there are lots of different steps that we need to go through. And the bonding is crucial to that. And so we want to, if all goes well and we're consistent with this timeline, we also have a grant through Eagle that needs to be used this year. We would anticipate operational startup in July of 2026. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, just a quick reminder on the benefits to the region. Decreases costs of waste disposal for residents and businesses, meets the county requirements for recycling and materials management, creates more than 5 full-time jobs at the facility and additional trucking jobs. And, with any business like this, there are other jobs that are ancillary to this that can be created in the region because of the recycling effort. And it increases recycling access for this 5 to 6 county area. Also provides materials to local and regional manufacturers. And so those are cost-effective materials for them at a time when those materials could be increasing in cost. It also increases the lifespan of landfills. Okay. So with that, we get to our request, and Administrator Osmer did send me some initial feedback on those 2 documents. One of them is Act 233 contract between the county and NEMA. The second one is the adoption of a resolution approving the contract and authorizing notice. And so these are all legal requirements of going through that bonding process. So we do have, we did ask for some revisions. Section 16 in the contract has been removed. We've made the corrections in the resolution. One thing I would like to note, though, is that we do have to change the time of the meeting on the contract and authorizing notice. It's at 1, it says 1 o'clock. It's 9:30, obviously. The other thing is that NEMA will be responsible for the cost of the quarter-page ad for the notice that will need to be issued. Additionally, we're just trying to remove as many roadblocks as possible and, assure you that, this is something we're very serious about, maintaining the debt service. One of the things that we could do is to have a joint account with the county. We get our surcharge funding beginning in January, and that kind of goes through March. We have the majority of it by the end of February. So we would even establish a joint account with the county that we put the money into a separate account that will go towards the debt service. And we would do that in the February timeframe. And I believe that those payments are due in May, but we would keep that money in there set aside to make sure that those payments are made. So with that, I would certainly entertain any questions or concerns.
Rachel, what did
Thank
you
you.
say about section 16?
So I got the feedback from, Administrator Osmer that section 16, and I'm sorry, I only have the revised one, but section 16
Additional
was
bond.
additional bonding and no one liked that, and it's really not necessary.
That was one of
So that
mine,
was-
right?
That was removed.
Okay. Um,
Question, Rachel, you're originally planned on a $1.243 million bond. So you're putting a contingency fund about 350,000 in there to go to the 1.6.
Well, and we'll only issue the amount that we need to, but we have to set the ceiling of that bond as high as possible, or else we have to come back and make this request and go through that process all over again. So that's as much as it could be, but as I noted, we're only allowed by law to issue the amount of the bond that we absolutely need. And that'll be, we'll have to issue the RFP and get those bids back so we know exactly how much we're looking at. I'm sorry, did that answer?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, this is Ron Liscombe. Can you hear me?
yeah,
Yes.
Hi, I'm bond counsel from Miller Canfield. Happy to answer any questions you may have, but just to reiterate what Rachel indicated, we set this amount at 1.6 million because we have to go through this 45-day referendum period. And we don't have bids on the construction and everything yet. So we set this high just to provide flexibility so we would not have to delay the project in the event things came in higher than the 1.2 or whatever is to be expected, particularly right now because, the market is so crazy and as Rachel indicated, production costs are going up and all of that. So we just provided the flexibility there.
I had a question, a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I had a question about the responsibility of the county of section 9 of, about paying, but you answered it by saying that you're going to put funding in an account. So that kind of answers that. And then go down to section 10 on the debt service.
Yes.
And the reason I was like going through some of these questions kind of pinged out at me because I'm kind of unfamiliar with this type of thing. So I read and reread and stuff. So, okay. Now, in the event, so again, it's about paying it. So that's where I was concerned about not being able to make the payment because that would put you behind, because it's every 6 months. And so if you have to catch up, then you're catching up. But you answered that with that. And I
We
did.
would just set it aside right away.
And I did look at your financials for January. But so the additional construction costs in that whole section 10. And that kind of before that, okay, there's another paragraph about the yearly payments, and then they were talking about financial obligation, and then they kept using this from time to time wording about additional costs, and I was really uncomfortable with that. I was wondering, well, what was the purpose of this paragraph, basically?
And which particular paragraph for Ron?
It would be, okay, we're section 10,
It's right after the pay schedule.
right after the pay schedule, yeah, okay.
Ron, can you address that?
Yeah, give me one moment. I'm just finding the language.
Oh, okay. Because the first paragraph that's in detail. And then, about it kind of was confusing.
Oh, it's about mid-paragraph on the first paragraph of page 5, where it says from time to time as other costs and expenses accrue to the authority from handling of funds being.
Maybe it should be more, it seems
Yeah.
vague.
Right. So, this language is, let's see. So generally what happens is a local unit that is participating in, a regional authority such as this, and we undertake a financing. One thing we have to make sure is that, because it's paid from system revenues, we have to ensure that the system is able to operate, right? So,
Yeah,
this
okay.
is kind of, a because without the system operating, that's not generating any revenue to pay debt service.
Yeah,
Um, that being said, I can understand that there is perhaps um, some consternation from this. We can take a look at that. Generally the concept is we need to ensure that the system is able to continue to operate in order to generate revenues. So that's the reason for it.
okay.
But we can take a look at that if you'd like us to. It's not, well, in a well-managed system, we've
Is it
never
a
had.
protection? Is it like for protection,
Yes,
basically? Okay,
essentially. That's
Okay.
exactly. Yep.
okay, okay. And then like in the same section, okay, it was talking about the costs and, what happens if you require additional costs that affect the completion of the project? And the county doesn't have, and you need to have the county supplement it and they don't have the funds to. And
Well,
so,
go ahead. Sorry.
okay, I mean, what kind of plan B would be in effect?
Well, we would have to cut costs.
Well, but the thing is that, when I was reading, this was like in 10, and I wondered if any other counties and the 5-county authority are willing to assist. But then it looked like this question I had was addressed in paragraph 14, which talked about default. But I found it interesting that it would jump, it didn't cover it then, that we would understand that if you didn't have the funding, what happens in the default process. And that default process paragraph really, really bothered me because it felt that I felt, and again, it's just my feeling, is that we are being approached to co-sign in a way, but this paragraph seems to be set up to report on the county and ensure to kind of say that we're going to make sure that you do what you're supposed to. That I wish I could be a little bit more clear, but I wasn't really comfortable with that. And again, it could be standard language in this kind of a contract. And then the additional bonds, yes, okay. Contract term, how come it says 30 years at the end, section 20?
That's what we would
Is
anticipate.
that standard?
I think it depends on how much debt service you want to carry, but I don't know, Ron, if you want to address that.
Yeah, so what would happen is this contract would terminate if we're only doing a 20-year financing, it would be a 20-year financing. It would be a 20-year term for the contract.
Okay, and I ask you questions now, and this is really, it's a remarkable, program you're putting together, is that I look at that, voting for a 20-year commitment for the county with 6 figures in the case event something happens. Just really, I wanted to be sure, be more comfortable with everything before, voting, and because this is going to be continuing long after I'm gone. So that is just my questions. And then lastly, in the resolution, one, there's like some typos.
Yeah.
It refers,
Yeah, I think we corrected those because Administrator Osmer had pointed them out.
okay. And then the right of referendum paragraph, is that standard that I know that you have to have, if you put your notice, you have to have so many days, um, whatever, and so many signatures on a petition.
Yes, that's required.
Why does the 15,000 come before saying you only need 10% of the population?
Well, it's the lesser of those two numbers. So it's the lesser of.
Not in
10%.
our case.
We generally track the statute, and that's what the statute says.
So it can't be reworded then?
If you would like it reworded, we can reword it.
I would feel more comfortable with it being reworded, but those are just my questions, and I appreciate the work that you guys have done, and
What would be the rewording for that?
I don't know.
If that's in the statute, I don't know.
I toyed with this last night and I couldn't come up with one, so I just left it.
What's the population of Alpena County?
About 30,000.
Well, 28, I think it's
Okay.
28,000.
So 10% would be 3,000.
So we will take out the signed by not less than 10%. No, signed by not, we'll remove signed by not less than 15,000. We
Okay.
will remove that language.
So it would just be the 10% then.
Correct.
But thank you. That's just, I'm done.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh,
Anybody else? Rachel?
Yeah, so one of the questions, and I talked to one of the attorneys for the city, or for the county, and one of the questions that he had mentioned to me was, what was there a municipal financial advisor involved with this, and
Yes.
was that?
That was approved by NAMET. They're literally called Michigan Municipal Advisors, I believe.
MFCI.
Yes.
Are there any other of these centers around Michigan? The recycling, like this new one that we're designing?
I don't know if there's anything exactly like the one we're designing.
I can jump in if you
Thinking
want.
with the state mandating. this.
Annie White from RRS can jump in.
So a couple things is this program and its design is very much modeled in Emmett County. And so when we're looking at the tonnages coming through and there's how we're expecting it to grow and also going for a dual stream system, that their program was really taken into consideration and looking at the tonnages and what they got the first few years of operation in terms of those tonnages, as well as the existing performance in Alpena County. The reason why we're building this is because there are not a lot of recycling facilities in Northeast Michigan, that the closest is Emmett County, which is 90 miles away, and that trucking is expensive. And that's been cost prohibitive for both Alpena County and the other counties to really grow their programs when there wasn't a local solution. And then in terms of the design of the facility, we are looking at, this is a small tonnage for a recycling facility. This is, being in the recycling industry, this is cutting edge of thinking about how systems for rural areas that are low tonnage and low volumes. RRS, the system that we've been looking at that has informed the design is in operation in DeForest, Wisconsin, and we went out to visit that site, and it's running well and has been operating for a number of years. So that system has allowed a smaller building footprint, which has reduced the capital costs, and we've looked at every way to keep this both as affordable as possible while being operationally sound and still allowing room for expansion. So
Okay, that helps, yeah.
Thank you, Annie.
I want to say too, it's kind of weighing this in my mind, is that Alpena really has a reputation for being clean and taking care of itself. And I've heard that many times from out of town groups that come in. So I want to kind of really, so it's.
I think it's really wonderful that Alpena County is taking a leadership role when it comes to the MMP, because those other counties are really depending on Alpena County to move forward, because if not, I'm not sure how they, get their materials to a MRF.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so Annie apparently indicated that the revenue stream projections we based on Emmett County for the first several months, where they operated or whatever.
So we did the tonnages are based on, we're basically assuming getting the same pounds per household per year. You're getting at drop off for Alpena County at the beginning. Eventually later, it's growing and assuming growth to curbside, and that uses best practice numbers. Again, on the lower, what we're predicting is about half of what Emmett County is getting per household now. So it is on that lower end of projection, but again, participation from the 6-county region for a drop-off facility by drop-off participation and curbside in the dense areas by year 6. It gets you to that 4,300. And again, it's based on current tonnages and is about half of what the tonnage that Emmett County has going through. The revenue is based on 5-year averages for commodity revenue, as well as the other revenue sources that are listed there, such as the household fee and the landfill surcharge.
So the numbers that you used would, based on your information, are sufficient to meet the principal and interest payments on those bonds over the term of the bonds?
Yes.
Okay, and then I guess when we.
I can walk you through it if you'd like, or if not, I can answer, these questions as you have them.
Well, so the question that came up when we had a conversation with the lawyer was, so if the county is going to pledge its full faith and credit in connection with the bond obligations, what assurances can the authority provide that it will operate the system in a manner that does not result in a deficiency of revenue sufficient to pay the principal and interest each year? So the lawyer indicated that at a minimum, the contract needs to address the communications with the authority and the county treasurer, and that the county treasurer be made aware of at least 3 months in advance of any interest payments that are of any interest payment, that there are sufficient funds.
County's got 2 seats on our board. There's 2 commissioners on that board, monthly meetings, we go over financials, I'm just guessing. That might give you a heads up.
Well, but there, the lawyer was indicating, I mean, because I shouldn't have, I think that this needs to be in writing. So we can't, I mean, you can't just rely on either Bill or I to say, we're going to pass it on. This part of this contract, it needs to be, and that's where the lawyer was indicating that it should be in writing somewhere. Because it did say something, communication with the treasurer. So I think that's where that was coming from.
That's not our dad. Sure.
We do have more debt service built into this model than what is indicated in the contract. I think it would depend on whether or not you go, 20 or 30 years. Ron or Annie, did you have any feedback on that?
I mean, I think we have spent a lot of time on this business plan, and I think it's a sound one. It is conservative in terms of the household tonnage and we're seeing already that OSCO is wanting, as soon as this year, to begin sending tonnage to Alpena. So the first hitting those first 2 or 3 years of tonnage is with that commitment. I think that's is going to be easy to achieve. And I think these numbers are conservative. This is building in the tip fees that we're charging to out of county. I think there's room to play with those. And I think there's that those are reasonable. A 5-year average for the revenue from commodities is reasonable. And then looking for some materials management planning support for the beginning. And some support from the landfill surcharge, which half of it's already been committed and they're interested in meeting again before it goes forward. So I think this is a pretty, we've spent a few years here now looking at this business plan, and I think this is about as tight as it can be. And is a pretty solid and a good case for opening this type of facility. And we know the demand is there. And you're going to need it to meet those MMP goals. So I think, and all the other communities are to hit those targets for the state in terms of diversion rate.
So when, and I don't know if you look at this stuff, but when other facilities like Emmett County was built, did they build that with bonds when that was done?
Bonds are a common strategy to build these types of facilities. I do not, I can ask and get back to you if bonds were used in that instance or if another
I'm just kind of curious.
form of
So
funding.
when they're building these other facilities, are these other facilities being built? Because I'm sure that we can't be the only facility in the country that's, and I know we're concerned with Michigan, but if they're building other facilities, how are those other facilities being built?
Well,
I can,
if I just say Act 233 only allows us to use bonds, to issue bonds, to create
Well, no,
that revenue. And I know Marquette is an Act 233 facility.
and
as well.
they're building a facility.
I think that they use bonds to build their facility.
I kind of figured they might have if.
I mean, because that is the only way that we can borrow money as an Act 233 authority, which is how NEMA was formed.
Are you able to keep track of your 2.7 million and make sure it doesn't get yanked away?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gamble. It's listen to the news nowadays, yeah.
You know, our goal is to get that, I mean, it's sitting there for this facility.
Yeah.
And we have no assurances right now, okay? So, you know, the sooner that we can get all of our other funding sources secured, the sooner that we can get release of those funds.
Oh, quick question, going back to John's about the treasurer knowing what's going on. There's two, if I'm not correct, isn't there two payments for the bond? One's interest and one's principal per year?
That's correct. There's an annual principal payment and semi-annual interest.
So say on year one is 50,000, the first payment would be your principal, I mean, your interest payment, then your principal later on in the year.
Well, the interest, a portion of interest is going to be payable on the same day the principal is payable.
Okay, okay.
And then the, semi-annually period later, it would just be interest.
Okay.
How does that work when you make the payment? How does that work when you make the payments? You make the payments or the county makes the payments?
NEMA would make the payments because we issue the bonds.
You get a payment book?
Yeah,
Hopefully.
the bond company looks at it, I guarantee you.
We better know what our payment is.
You do get a debt service schedule.
Yeah,
Oh.
sure. I'm sure you do.
I'm fairly new to this because you have invited other commissioners and spoke to them about it, but neglected to invite me. So I'd like to speak a little bit. For one thing, I don't know how you are going to afford to make these payments. Because from what I understand, you're not doing that great. And a lot of people are quitting out there and you had let a lot of people go. So you're kind of running on a shoestring. And also I had heard that you were, and this is just hearsay, so I'm not sure, that you would like to get a truck in the city for recycling. but it would be for recycling in the city only, not the townships or anyone else. Which I don't think is fair to the people that are in this. And also I did have the question on the contract section, page 7, section 16, but you did answer that. But reading through the contract, I read a lot about like, well, the county is going to do this, the county is going to help with this. You know, the county don't have any money. And so if we approve this, we're more or less telling the people in the county, here we are with another big bill. And we've been stung before. And I'd hate to see us get stung again. And like I said, I do not see where you are going to keep up with these payments. I just do not see it. I would like you to show more. And I don't know how you're going to do that. So therefore, I am definitely against it. I will not put the county out for that kind of money that we just don't have if you don't have it. And that's exactly what would happen. If you don't pay it, it falls on the county. And we don't have it, so it sounds like a good contract if you had more money. And you don't. So I just don't foresee how you're going to carry this out.
Well, if I may address some of those things.
Sure.
So the operations out of the facility now, we did have a hiccup last year, which we have corrected. And that means making operations more efficient and changing over staff at times. So we have brought in more recyclables in the past couple months than I've seen come through that facility. With Bailey's leadership, we've been able to make some real improvements out there. And he's also found great end markets, and those end markets, we don't use the same one all the time as in the past. You go around and get the best price. So that's going to help us operationally stay solid. Now you do have a $5.5 million facility on county property if that is there, if those payments aren't made. We certainly don't intend for that to happen, but there is a facility out on county property that would belong to you. We spent a lot of time on this pro forma and business plan. Again, there are always assumptions in that, but it's something that we've thoughtfully worked on over the past 2 to 3 years to actually make sure that the business portion of this does work. Do you have something to say?
And I do too, when you have a chance.
So
It's getting better and better.
The problem with the program, and Brenda, I remember we were on the board back way when it first started. So the problem with recycling in Northeast Michigan is the 202 by 202 square foot piece of property we operate on. So you can look at whatever you want. The only thing you're going to see in our historical numbers is they're going this way as far as tonnage being recycled. As far as revenues brought in, that fluctuates with the market. Hence, that's back to Bailey. He's finding markets that, because that's his job, that pay more money for the products, where before we just shipped them here, shipped them there. We weren't getting the best bang for the buck. That's one thing. When Emmett County, you know, for Northern Michigan, it's kind of like the model. So our design is a circular sorting tray. You could speed that thing up, you can slow it down. Theirs is linear. It just goes down a line and stuff goes this way or that way, and they have to redo it. So ours is going to be even more efficient. But I just looked at some of their past budgets there. So Emmett County's recycling budget is $5.5 million. That's just their facility. And they make the money. And it's because they grew the program. And when they started, you know, the county was heavily involved. It was county stuff. So they didn't have to go and buy and build. The county already had and said, hey, we're going to turn it over to you. county employees, when you'd go there, there was a county employee at the check-in gate wearing a county.
And it's still a
Maintenance.
county program.
Right, so it's different than ours. But it grows. So these other counties, why we call it MMMA instead of Alpena County Recycling, is to pull in Oscoda, possibly Rogers City, if not all of Presque County, to get more materials. More materials, our labor is gonna be, probably won't be much worse than it is now because of the efficiencies built into this new building that allow you to do more with less or the same amount of people. So we're gonna pull in all these products, more products equals more. Once you, when you have, as Bailey's already found out, when you can guarantee that, hey, I've got this steady flow of product A, or I've got this steady flow of product B, they start arguing to get your product. One thing about our facility has always been true, and I'm just gonna talk about like cardboard. They die for our cardboard because it is so clean.
Who takes it? I'm unfamiliar with that.
Cardboard people. I don't know. I don't even know that. It's just, there's places they're just brokers. They
Like the
broker
tire
this
people?
stuff and they take your newspaper and somebody makes cellulose insulation out of it. They take your plastic and maybe somebody makes vinyl siding or Trex decking.
But you have companies come and buy it?
You
they
reach
come
out
and
to
pick it
them. They come and pick it up.
Okay,
But it's to pay the bond, I looked at overall the bond payments. I don't have any worries about it. If something did happen, heaven forbid, and like to Brenda's term, the county gets stuck, sell the building. I mean, it's gonna be worth more than this bond is anyway. But it absolutely is a fact. There's a couple things we're trying to accomplish today is to get this thing moving, hopefully get that resolution passed, because that's the start of getting the rest of the things going and securing that 2.7 million. Secondly, everything's being designed to what we know today. On April 9th, everything's gonna change again because we go to a new building code. So if we can't assure people that we have the money to get these buildings in production so that when they apply for that permit, we're going underneath of the 2015 Michigan Building Code that we know what that is, and Todd knows what I'm talking about. Or are we gonna be stuck on the 2021 or 2024, and who knows what's in it, and then a lot of your design for the structure anyway can go back to the drawing board, or there's slowdowns and expenses. So, we've been goofing around with this recycling. I don't want to use the word goofing
I
around.
was
We've
gonna
been
say.
working towards recycling in Alpena County since 2006 and a little bit even before that. We really need your buy-in to keep this ball rolling because that's what the people in the county want.
to be honest, that when I looked at the financials, and I'm not a whiz at that, but I mean, you look at income, revenue, whatever, I think that you can handle it.
We do too, or we wouldn't do.
But yeah.
This is Annie from RRS, and I'm somewhat echoing some of the points said before. The program needs a new building, so they're doing an amazing job without heat in the winter. They need a new building to do their work. And it's amazing what they've done there. This will help them to be more efficient. It will help employee morale, all of those things to move forward. I did just text a colleague that says Marquette let me call that back up, was funded similar to this project by a combination of grants. They used private financing as well. Some of that we looked at as well and were received favorable terms back, but given Act 233 could not go forward with that. But they vetted the project and said, hey, the financing, the modeling is sound. So this really has been through a significant number of reviews to get to this point. And you're seeing that debt service coverage ratio is below 1. I mean, is above 1 in the first year, and continues to increase with that increase in tonnage. It's showing that there's the funds there to pay those payments. I think this is a pretty sound model. Emmett I'm waiting for the specifics there, but they used public money, and I don't know the specifics of the form, and we'll let you know when I find out.
So you indicated Marquette, and that's, I'm assuming, why the document had Marquette written on it. So what was Marquette, or what is Marquette going for bonds for? How much?
Marquette is already built, and so it's historical information. And I can get you that cost. I need to ask a colleague of what the overall cost is. I can tell you though, we spent a lot of time reducing the cost of this, and about 5.1. I don't think you're going to find a better deal for a MRF. I will find that cost of what they paid in the year to get that built though for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
And then as far as curbside in the city and a truck, there's not a plan right now to purchase a truck for curbside in the city, but I would anticipate that you would look at your most populated areas, which would be the city and Charter Township at Alpena, and then work your way out. Because those choices would have to be made by the individual jurisdictions as to whether or not they wanted curbside recycling. And I know it does happen in rural areas. Emmett County works with the surrounding townships in their area to make that happen.
In other words, it may be in your planning. You know, you said that if the county gets stuck with it, well, we're gonna end up with this fabulous piece of property out there with all this equipment. You know, the county has got stuck before with fabulous pieces of property. And we're still paying for that fabulous piece of property. Can't sell it, nobody wants it. So, and I don't know who in God's green earth would want to pick up a recycling if you can't handle it. And also, with our budget, we did ask the people in the county to help us. We had it on when we voted and they all said no. They said to figure it out yourself. So if we say yes to this, then we have to figure out ourselves what we're going to do with it, how we're going to pay for it. I just, no.
Well, the county has asked us, NEMA, made up of all the different jurisdictions, to implement the county program for you. And this is part of that. There's a county requirement to have recycling and to have materials management planning. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that, except, you know, we will do our very best. And this includes county representatives and township representatives. It's not just the city. I just, again, drew the short straw for treasurer. There was a lot of work to be done. I'm able to do it. I put in a lot of volunteer hours, as have other members of that board, to, you know, make sure this happens. It's not only good for the city, it's good for the county, it's good for surrounding counties, it's good for manufacturers in this community. We have, you know, we have a budding partnership with Wholesome. So, you know, this authority has done a lot of work on this, and the recycling program can't exist forever out at the current facility. Bailey has actually done some amazing things out there. I don't know if you've been there lately, but it's never looked better, but it's not going to last us into the future. We absolutely need a new building. So by recycling with other counties and planning with other counties, then we make this facility more solvent, because then your operations are scalable and you have more materials to bring in to this facility. We spent a lot of time on the pro forma, as I said.
Rachel, I
Yeah.
was wondering too, you know, that household charge, do other counties charge that on their taxes? They do. Okay.
There are other counties. Some people do millages. There are a couple different ways to fund your recycling program, but
So would other counties be willing to contribute this year? Because you're utilizing the whole county's share
we'll
to
have,
operate.
right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, to operate.
We'll have an agreement. The agreements may look differently. You know, it'll be a intergovernmental agreement. For example, excuse me, I had a cough drop. For example, Iosco County, they may pay us a tipping fee. They may just pay us a monthly fee. It depends on which counties. So IOSCO has funded their program through a similar source, but actually they may have a millage. But as in that slide where I showed all the different funding sources, some of that model comes from those agreements.
Okay.
So we will get revenue in not only from the materials that they're bringing, but also from a tipping fees, basically. Did you have something to say?
Commissioner Bray, never thought I'd be saying that. To answer your question, so I met with some of those commissioners when I was a commissioner and before and after, but all the other areas are interested. And when we started having these meetings, 3-4 years ago to move this forward, every county wanted to have a recycling center of their own until they saw this. And like, oh, shoot, we only got 12,000 people. We can't build that. So that's where all the discussions come. That's where the extra materials are gonna come. They're gonna get some money out of that, the rewriting of the solid waste program, and they can apply for their own grant. So they're not gonna go out and get $5 million to build a facility.
No.
But
I
they
just
can
think,
go out and get a grant to put in recycle centers and buy a truck. And then they pay us, whether, Rachel outlined some of the different ways they do it, but that's what's gonna grow our revenue stream.
I don't mean to build a center. I just mean as
No,
you're.
they're all gonna come to us. That's the idea. Is we don't wanna have them all over the place. It doesn't work.
Right.
Math doesn't work, but you've got one on Northwest Michigan, you'll have one in Northeast Michigan, you got them up in the UP, down south. We become the regional hub and we rely on those other partners. Once somebody, Iosco County, Oscoda, once they expend money to facilitate their program, they're gonna be committed to keeping it going. So they're either gonna bring it to us, which is gonna help us keep going. If not, then they're gonna have to take it to Emmett County or take it down south. Either of those two options, Emmett County or down south, the math doesn't work for trucking, and I know Travis knows what I'm talking about. It can cost you $1,000 to ship $200 worth of something across state. So it all, but the thing is, it's a lot of this is future stuff. Until you get that facility up and running,
How do you-
nothing's guaranteed, right?
Okay,
But we feel very strongly, and so do our other partners.
thank you.
But also on that part with the MMP, each county is going to get $70,000 a year for recycling.
Yeah.
Is that state payments they were
It's a
referring
state
to?
payment.
Oh.
So this first year, Andy, you can help me with RSNS. First year's payment is going to RSNS to formulate the plan for the 5 counties.
Okay,
After that, each county will get $70,000 plus how much? 50 cents per capita and for extra. If you're on, still on. Anyways, for Alpena County, it's about another $14,000 a year.
so out of the 5 counties, you get that 70,000.
Everybody gets, every county gets that.
I'm on.
Yeah.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was just asking, and it's 50 cents, I believe, per capita on that new plan, right?
That sounds, let me check that too.
Yeah, I think that's what it
That
is.
sounds
That-
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So I mean, they're gonna, each one of those counties is gonna get that money to put towards recycling. Plus, I've talked to a couple of commissioners that sit on MOA. They're gonna start looking at doing the per capita, the $20, might be $10, whatever, but they're gonna start doing that also.
Okay.
They're committed to, I know Scotia's committed to this recycling really, really heavy.
Because you get a substantial amount from, I think it was like about 300,000 from the taxes from the county, but then you have to have your operating.
right.
Expenses also.
386-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else?
Are the 3 of you in this room right now that are involved in this comfortable that this pro forma is good?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's all I want.
Could I, Chairman? Just
Go ahead.
question, sorry. And I apologize, I could have asked this earlier, it just occurred to me. If we are able to secure funding through other sources like a legislative grant or something, the way the bond is written, is there a penalty for paying it off early? So if we were to ask for this and let's say a year from now, we get a legislative grant for 1.2 million, we pay that off, are we then on the hook for, I guess,
How that 1.2 million sounds,
Yeah.
but I would defer to Ron, but I don't think that there is a penalty for paying it off early.
okay. Right.
I know in there, when I was reading it, it basically says that the county needs to set aside the actual bond payment for that year in our budget. So in order to cover it in case. What's that?
Could be a pass through. You could put it in your budget. It'd be coming from us, just like when you do a grant in your budget. I mean, that's not hard.
Yeah, and there might even be an option just to take it right off the surcharge. I just mechanically, we would have to, and I would think we could have an MOU or something that established that. We would have to talk to Miller Canfield about how that could work, but we want to give you some assurance that that would be available as a payment.
So basically you'd have to write it in where Cindy would know that that money's available from the $25 charge
Sure.
every year. Got that written down, Jesse?
But if there's $1.2 million available down the road,
Anything
then
else?
this facility would be fully funded.
Yeah.
Travis, anything else? You got anything? Bill? Huh? Lucille, you find
Sorry,
out?
no. No, sorry.
So
So I'd like to kind of hold off until we get the updated, most corrected version. With all, and then all that additional information before I can make a decision. I don't know about the rest of you.
But they want to have everything by April.
Well, we're trying to get as soon as possible. We were gonna be here 2 weeks ago, but we postponed.
Yeah.
I know you had a problem with the bond. getting that.
Crunching.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
We just wanted to make sure that we had all the information to you. I mean, we would really love to approve it with the changes today because if not, it puts our process back as much as, I don't know, a month. Ron, can you speak to what our timeline would be if this was approved 2 weeks from now? Because I think we've already made some of the changes requested.
Yeah.
And then I know that there's a change that Commissioner Bray had requested in,
Well, that was just in the petition.
oh, yeah, in the
The other
resolution.
addressed,
Right.
And
Is Ron still
also,
on? Oh, Ron may have had to drop off.
all
know,
our
and also-
RFPs are just sitting there ready to go. We
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
anything without this, so.
And it
5
holds up.
days could make a difference sometimes. I mean, and I think a lot of the things we're talking about aren't like, driving off a cliff type issues. These are all things I think in good faith that can be done. Even if the resolution is hopefully adopted today, we can take care of that later on. They're not huge things. We've already said we'll put the money in for bank account to make the payments. I mean, so that's kind of a no brainer. The other assurances could obviously be wrote in.
It could be adopted with all the changes that we discussed here today.
You can make that a part of your motion, I would imagine, Phil.
Yeah.
As well as establishing that, the surcharge would come directly into an account.
So you'd be happy with that, Cindy? You on the spot now.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to defer to my lawyer before I answer that question.
That's kind of why I said that I'd like to get that additional information from Annie that she said on the Marquette, just so I can have an idea of, she said it's all historical, so it should be a quick, easy, get me the information. And then go back to have another discussion with the legal counsel. That's what I would like to do.
So you're gonna make the motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to table this until next meeting and get that additional information.
I'll support.
Okay, and it's got a motion by Commissioner Kozlowski, supported by Commissioner Fournier. Table this for till full board meeting.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
What's the date on that?
March 25th,
March 20.
and that's a 5:30.
21st, did you say?
I say the
Okay, wait, hold on.
What's the date?
Yeah, go ahead.
I found a summary about Marquette. And let me call it up. That is around 2019, for the improvements to their site.
Well, just do me a favor, just send it to me so I can review it because I still want to be able to talk to the lawyer again.
Okay, it's looking like it was about a $5 million upgrade, and that's 2019 numbers, and it was for a facility of 6,000 to 9,000 tons per year. And so that is generally what that costs for a population of, it's for a larger population of 65,000 roughly.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
I thought you. Yes. Just taken care of.
Carried.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. We'll get this taken care of.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there any option to approve it before then?
That's up to.
If you have all the information and everything that you need.
The only way we could do that would be a full vote and depends on, I can talk to the other commissioner. We'll go from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, Dave. I know you've been waiting, so.
Morning.
Should have started before that.
Yeah.
This year's grant for Remon in this county is $46,951. Out of that, we budgeted 80% for contract surveying, and the remaining 20% is for administration and peer review. We have the same two contractors this year that we've had in the past for quite some time. They are local. They've got a lot of experience in the program. They are the most qualified. Question?
I would also note they came in under budget. So
Came what?
came in under budget.
It's always been, this Remon program has always been funded fully with Remon funds. I'm sorry, grant funds.
And we do this every year to check all those 2,000
Well,
corners.
we've checked, we're to the point now where we probably have done about 70%. So every year this Michigan tells us how much money we can get, and we do the best with what we get. So we're at the point, with the current funding, we should be done with the first phase in maybe 7 years, which will mean that we've remonumented every government corner in the county. And then we'll go to what's called maintenance. So we'll go back and revisit some of these corners we've done 30 years ago and make sure they're still in the ground
Not moving.
and the references are there. Well, as of 2016, the contract surveyor is required to place latitude and longitude on these corners to within 1/100th of an arc, 1/100th of a second of arc, which means that it's the equipment to do that is very expensive. That would mean that you could go back with GPS and locate the corner if it was missing.
Well, I was going to say too, it seems like, when they talked about this, I went back through my notes to look and I don't know who gave it, but they gave us purpose. They gave us the 3 Ps or whatever, and I was looking at it. The technology has changed. So I would think that with the technology, it would make it a lot easier finding those points.
Well, it's not, John, because when we started, we did corners in the well-populated areas. The corners, most of them were on roads, in residential areas. Now we're out in the middle of swamps looking for these things. So it's much harder, and that's why the cost per corner has a lump sum.
And you indicated about the grant, who who submits? Do they just give us that money or do we have?
Well, what happens is the way the funds are generated is a certain percentage of recording fees. And I think it's $4
Yeah.
every $30 recording fee is collected by the county, sent to the state. And then they have a formula. This year, I think the total amount is $5.5 million. Of that, we're getting $46,951. And the formula for the funding is based upon 50% is local contribution. The other 50% is area, the area of the county versus the state. And this is where we come ahead. So the state will put together, they'll take the money and they'll divide it up in such a way that they can determine what each county gets. We've always gotten more than we contribute because the percentage of the county versus the entire state gets us a lot more than we could contribute. So we've always gotten more.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to
So-
approve.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner
Am I getting ahead
Kozlowski.
of it?
No, go ahead. Support.
Or
Support. Action item number 2, the committee recommends approval of the professional service agreement with Huron Engineering and Survey in the amount of $17,550. Lewis and Lewis Professional Surveying in the amount of $18,900 for remuneration services as presented. We have a motion and a support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
carried.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for coming, Dave.
Cindy. See you tonight. Monthly reports.
Yep, in your packet, you had the reports, the balance sheet for Alpena County. The total assets were $3,443,959.28. Liabilities of $234,605.87. We had an unrestricted fund balance of $473,43. An ending fund balance of $3,209,353.41. If you remove the reserve funds from that, it gives us an unreserved fund balance of $2,941,339.41. Then there is a revenue and expense report for 2025 for February. You can see there, February revenues, we had 581,447.68 and expenses of 1,036,653.75. And then I also have a revenue and expenditure report with activities from last year at this time and this year at this time.
Want to go into your budget adjustments? Is that going to be under you, Jesse?
That's Jesse.
Okay, I need a motion to receive and file the treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner LaHaye, support by Commissioner Fournier. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Oh, same sign. Thanks, Cindy.
He's got it.
Yep, then I have a
Yep.
policy for weekly transmittals to the treasurer's office. That was also in your packet. What's happening is that we have some regular depositors that come in weekly as they're supposed to, and other units that are not bringing in their transmittals. We had some that were like a month and a half late from last year's monies not being turned in. So we've decided to go with a weekly transmittal to the treasurer's office to eliminate that. If there's policy in place for that, then the department head and or elected officials should be making sure that whoever's doing their transmittals and reporting are in our office weekly.
So I thought we always had that policy, kind of.
I would like to reiterate because
No, whether.
some people are following it and some people are not.
So whether they're doing it, but I thought it was I remember reading it somewhere that maybe it was with Parks, but there is something that they're submitting their stuff. They're supposed to submit their stuff weekly.
Yeah, Parks has also changed over to doing weekly even when they are closed for the season because of the credit card transactions.
This should make your life easier.
Yes, and recording purposes. I mean, if we have money that was, collected in December of 24 and we didn't get it till the middle of February, or
How does the auditor feel about that?
the auditor does not care for that.
So I'd entertain a motion to change this
I'll make a
policy.
motion.
Motion by Commissioner Kozlowski, support by Mr.
Sorry.
Konashevsky.
Get the two of those names.
Yeah. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Action item 5, budget adjustments.
Everybody should have the list. Just a quick review on action items 1 and 2. Those were items that this board had already budgeted for the 25 budget. The treasurer's office just now needs the board action in order to actually transfer that money from the opioid fund into those 2 separate accounts. Number 3 was an oversight. The money is in there, the revenue's in there. We just need to add the expense line items for ASCO, Mount Morency, and Esco transferring the money from 24. It should have rolled over to 25. And then
Jesse, is that 8,000 for Alpena County in there too?
it's not, I had to shake the trees. I was able to find it. That'll be for consideration on the 25th. So we do have the money for it.
Okay. Okay.
By the time I got the numbers there, it was already too late. We already had everything posted. So.
Yeah.
I guess Cindy wants me to mention that Alcona County has not paid their $8,000. They're going to be waiting until the reimbursement funds come back. So we are on the hook for that amount until that money comes in.
Did we talk about having the billed individually, or do we have to make the payment? And they just because if it's reimbursement, shouldn't.
That's what you guys approved last time. We're gonna do that $4,000 towards the state to see how fast that reimbursement comes back.
But I'm saying if it's reimbursement, they're gonna be if they don't have the money, the other counties don't have the money, they're not gonna pay us if they don't have the money like Alcona did.
There's a hold up right now because state says we moved too fast. They were saying we weren't moving fast enough.
Now we move too fast.
Now, we had to be done by March 16th for the plan. Now they said you're way ahead of the schedule. Slow down.
Okay,
So we're not worried about the 4,000 right now.
okay.
Action item number 4, this is similar to number 1 and 2. You guys had budgeted the amount. We just now are looking for the transfer of that amount. Action number 5, action item number 5, sorry. When we had passed the 25 budget, we had stripped funding to the MSU extension completely, voting that department out from our budget. Afterward, they were able to secure a grant from Youth and Rec. That money has come in, so now that it's there, we're looking to basically just adjust those line items to compensate.
I just want to say too, on that, there was discussion that they were going to be cut, and then that same meeting Tony was at, and I think we knew that they were going to get covered anyways.
We did, yeah, but until everything's good to go, we didn't want to put it in budgets. We knew it was probably going to happen, but yeah, it wasn't yet approved. So now that the Youth and Rec grant has been approved and those monies are coming in, we can now inject these numbers back into our budget for expense line items, sorry. Budget adjustment number 2. Great. That's on the elections. Did you want to?
Yeah, just the elections, the city and townships have like grant funding or wage reimbursements for the elections for last year, and the state uses the county as a pass-through. So that's the budget adjustment to increase the revenue line item number and the expense line item number so I can get the money and give it out to the townships. So it's kind of a wash.
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget adjustments.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kozlowski. Support by Commissioner Britton. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Informal or poll action, Jesse.
So there was a poll item, there was we actually had a member of our staff out sick and the invoice came into their email and nowhere else. So by the time we got it, needed to go out for a poll vote in order to get it paid in a timely manner. So that was that poll vote action item.
And we did correct or make a change to how that was.
Those invoices now come to a second person as well. So that won't happen again.
We need to pass that
Well, it's more
That might-
informational.
More informational, so we don't have to worry about it again.
Without
Okay.
approval.
Yeah, I think so.
Motion to revise and report. Have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Konashevsky, support by Mr. Ludlow. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There you go, John.
Okay, next item to the restroom is the consent calendar. Everyone had a chance to review the consent calendar. There's only a couple items plus the minutes. If anybody has anything that they want to question, if not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion. Stereo over there.
They want their voice.
Motion by Commissioner,
Support by.
support by Commissioner Ludwig. Okay. Any questions on that? If not, roll call.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky, Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item, we have, county administrator has a couple things that he wants to discuss.
So in early 2023, an item came before the board for discussion. That was the idea of expanding our road commission. It currently has 3 members. And the discussion was whether or not we should expand it to 5 members. The conversation kind of fizzled out and then it was revived in 24 again for a little bit. It fizzled out again. It's now revived again in 25. And to that end, we've decided it's time to move forward with a formal consideration and possible vote so that we can move on and either decide to go ahead with the expansion or to leave it at the 3-member board. We have looked it up according to MCL section 224.6, Act 283 of 1909. This commission does actually have the authority to expand the board following a series of steps that they have to take. The first step would be to notify the road commission by letter. And so that would be the letter that's attached to your agenda for consideration for the chairman to sign and deliver to them. Once that letter is delivered, it begins a timer basically on different steps that we have to take, including taking public comment and holding 2 hearings. Actually, we're only required to have 1, but because I wanted to team them up with your regularly scheduled meetings, we did 2 so that individuals who can't maybe make it in the middle of the day have an option for an evening one as well. So I think everybody has the letter. Again, this just kind of gets the timeline started for a formal consideration and vote. We did invite the road commission to attend a meeting on April 22nd to give any input or suggestions as to what they would like to see done with the board.
What happens if they don't like it?
You can still move forward with it. You just take it into consideration and then you would take public comment at 2 hearings. And then weighing what the road commission brings to you and what you gather from those public hearings, you would do a formal vote. I think we're looking at a final vote July 8th of 2025.
So are you looking for a motion then?
Just looking for, a motion to have the chairman sign the letter to begin the process.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
So we have motion and support. You want to get involved in this too?
No, no. Double support.
Okay. So we have a motion and support. Any discussion? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Emergency management?
So as reported from the last meeting, we're looking at doing the emergency management, joining up with Montmorency County. Things are going very well. We do have a contract being drafted that will be ready for your review and consideration on March 25th. Because there seems to be a lot of interest in it, we did go ahead and create a job description, which we would like to post. Kind of be putting the cart before a horse in a manner, but again, I think most of the board has expressed interest in going ahead with the partnership. And the contract would be approved prior to the interview process beginning, but at least gets the job description out there into the public so we can start gathering applications. So that job description actually I just delivered to the chairman last night for approval, and we can get that posted as soon as this week. We'll be out there for 2 weeks to gather applications, and then we'll begin the process in early April for interviews. So just looking for, I guess that's just more of informational than anything else. The next item is recycling bins. I've been in touch with CFO at Besser Company. Kind of explained the situation. We went through the maps and the deed together. Coincidentally, the gentleman from Besser Company who signed the original deed is his next door neighbor. So he was going to go over and have a conversation with him. And then he was going to meet with the CEO and COO at some point this week. So I'm hoping to hear back later this week whether or not they will be approving us putting recycling bins out at that location. And then it's up to the board whether or not to allow them to stay or not. But again, hoping to hear back more later this week. Just wanted to let you know that we were finally able to touch base. And then.
That location is the soccer fields?
Correct. We did talk about taking a series of steps too, if they were to stay out there, making sure fencing is put up, making sure that possible partitions to help slow the traffic down and make them even possibly just use the one drive at the end. So it was a long conversation, but again, he's going to take a lot of these ideas back. They'll come back to us and let us know whether or not they're okay with recycling bins being on that property. Final item is the truck. So it came to our attention that Parks and Recreation Commission needs a vehicle for use at their Long Lake Park for their manager. There was an informal request that was made to grounds and maintenance for use of their flatbed truck that they have parked out at the fairgrounds. But because they use that vehicle so often for different projects, they declined. With that being said, they did talk to Wes, and there's a red truck. It's a 2012 Ford F-250 SRE Super Duty with plow. That just came out of a shop. The invoice for work that was done on it was just over $2,500. And so I thought it might be worthwhile to, and he basically said that he wouldn't have any issues giving that to the parks for use. So I thought it might be worthwhile to ask the parks in exchange for covering that invoice, they can have the truck, and that way we have an operating truck out at the Long Lake Park.
Let's increase the invoice, not tell parks, and see if they pay that.
They won't.
No deal.
Okay.
A letter that, again, I drafted a letter from the chairman to the Parks Commission. They'll be meeting tomorrow, and just asks that they let us know by the end of the month whether or not they're interested in that vehicle.
So this is just for informational, and you'll take it back to the parks. And
I would need the board to approve you signing the letter and delivering it to the Parks Commission.
okay, so I'd look for motion to approve me signing the letter regarding the vehicle for parks.
So moved.
So moved by
Yeah,
Commissioner Peets
there we go.
and support by Commissioner Bray. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And I guess that's it for you. So next item is public comment. If we have any other public comment. If not, any public comment online? Nope. Okay, we'll close public comment and then we'll move into closed session regarding personnel.
Question for Rachel, if it's okay. Are there long-term plans to move the recycling bins back out to other remote locations?
I would think once we get to the new facility, we could entertain that. The reason that they're all together, at least at the city site, is because we had trouble
Right, with-
keeping them empty because they filled up so fast.
Yep.
If you just had two at different locations, so we wanted to keep a large quantity of them so that recycling is always available. But yes.
Okay, because
long-term plan.
I did get a few calls with questions and comments in regards to that. And a lot of the feedback I did receive was that if they were, placed a little bit more conveniently, that people feel like there would be a lot more production, if you will. But just giving some feedback, and I wanted to see what your long-term thought was. It makes sense. I know you had some truck issues and whatnot.
And just keeping them empty because like they'll fill up twice a day in some locations.
Oh, wow.
So we have to actually have the ability to empty those multiple times, but keeping them all together at one site allows us to always have bins there for use. So then it's less dumping at the sites.
Sure.
We can monitor the sites for You know, so definitely in the long run, long term, we would like to get multiple sites.
Okay, and that, I did want to mention to you, because that was the majority of the feedback I got. If they were placed back in Austin and, you know, in the middle of town, that people would use it more.
Our hope is to add to them.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
So.
Yeah.
it's just we increase the material. we will need.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yep. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move into closed session.
Well, wait.
We got a 2-minute break.